You're listening to Stephen Michaels. This is the Raiders Daily Podcast.
Welcome everyone to a very special edition of the Raiders Daily Podcast. This will be free to all to listen right now because obviously the world of the Las Vegas Raiders is crazy right now. Jon Gruden resigns as the head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders. This, of course, comes on the heels of the Raiders playing like garbage against the Chicago Bears as they just could not get anything going. The team looked flat. Everything looked terrible. Now, I gotta think that, this whole Jon Gruden situation was weighing on those players during the game. There's no way you can just block out that whole noise that was going on coming into the game, knowing that there is going to be other things leaked in these emails that were 11 years old. Now, listen, here's the deal with all this Jon Gruden drama. Obviously, what he said in the emails aren't, very good, but it is Jon Gruden. I don't think anyone, if you've been watching Jon Gruden, you shouldn't really be surprised what's in the emails. What he says, he talks trash about everyone, this guy. And it's Jon Gruden. So everything, in all the articles, everything that he wrote in the emails, which, by the way, is kind of weird that you could just dig up emails from a guy who, at the time, was not even a coach in the NFL and just put them out there. Meanwhile, they were doing an investigation on the Washington, Dan Snyder, the owner, the Washington football team. So, what happened with that? Anyways, what happened with that investigation? Because the only thing that came out of that was Jon Gruden no longer is a head coach in the NFL. It is very bizarre. The day of the first batch of the racist one, that was when a guy was battling to keep his job, and that comes out, and then 6 hours later, guess what? That guy keeps his job. And then the NFL, what do? They tell the owner, Mark Davis, listen, fire Jon Gruden. Mark Davis won't do it. And then the NFL says, if you don't fire him, this new stuff will come out every single week. Now, don't think for a second that Jon Gruden didn't already know what was in there, because I'm sure there's a lot more. I'm sure just last week he has emails with someone talking trash about someone else. So he knew that it was just going to get worse and worse and worse every single week. The NFL knew that. They were going to keep, because the NFL could not fire Jon Gruden. They couldn't really do anything. They could fine him, but that's the only thing they could really do. So instead, they just kept telling the Raiders, basically, this will happen every single week. A new email will come out every single week. Your team will just keep on losing because it'll keep being a distraction. So Jon Gruden did the right thing as he just resigned, saves Mark Davis all the money, the rest of his contract anyways, and the Raiders move on. Now Richie Bisaccia will be the new head coach for the Las Vegas Raiders. He was already the assistant head coach. And to me, it's kind of funny because, this is what Jon Gruden would want. Jon Gruden, I don't know if you remember, but he was pretty much lobbying for Richie Bisaccia to get a chance at a head coaching position in the NFL. He did it last season. He said it in a press conference. I don't know if it was after a game or Monday, but he's been really high on this guy and thinking that he deserves a chance at a head coaching gig. And now guess what? He's going to get one. He is going to lead this Raiders team. Now, the good news, usually when a coach, gets fired during the season's over for that team. That's just the way it goes. Everyone knows that. You could just throw away the season. You have an interim head coach, and usually that interim head coach doesn't do too well, and that guy never stays. I don't expect Richie Bisaccia to be the head coach of the Raiders next season. But here's the thing. Let's not lose sight of this. This is a kind of a different situation than any other coach getting fired or anything like that, because this coach and Jon Gruden, he didn't get fired. He resigned. And the Raiders are still 3-2. It's not like they're 0-5 right now. So it's a different kind of situation. And you got Greg Olsen there, and he's going to remain there, and he's going to call the plays for Derek Carr. Derek Carr obviously is very familiar with Greg Olsen. It's not like these guys never worked together. They've been working together for a while. You're going to keep Gus Bradley there, so the defense isn't going to change. Not a lot is going to change. I could argue this, and we'll see, because we won't really know. I don't think we'll even know during the Denver game. I think we'll probably see what this new Raiders team will look like during that Eagles game the following week, because it's going to be kind of hard to change things up. They already have a game plan for Denver that Gruden already drew up, I guarantee you. And they're just going to go with that game plan. Even though Jon Gruden won't physically be there, they're going to go with that kind of game plan that he already drew up. He already has plays drawn up for that game. So I don't think we'll see much of a difference, but we'll see some difference without a doubt. Because Gruden won't be there scripting plays. You know? So that will be the only difference. We'll see, maybe, just maybe, guys, that this team, the Raiders, will actually be better. I could argue that Jon Gruden was a little bit too conservative, and now with Derek Carr and Greg Olsen there, maybe Derek Carr won't be so conservative. Maybe we're going to see a lot more big passes. Maybe we're going to see a lot more things happen. Now, another thing, we got to talk about this because it's kind of bizarre. Remember, Jon Gruden lives right next to Derek Carr. Are we supposed to think that Derek Carr is still not going to talk to Jon Gruden? Come on now. I mean, I don't think Mark Davis, when Jon Gruden went in there and said, hey, I'm just going to resign and save you the money and save the whole organization, this whole shit show, basically. It's kind of weird that he's still going to be living next door to Derek Carr. I wouldn't be shocked at all if he's, walking across the street to getting the game plan for next week. You know what I mean? If Jon Gruden's the shadow coach for this season, at least this season, it wouldn't shock me at all. Now, I doubt they're going to do that because, if you get caught, you'd get in a lot of trouble. But, it is weird that he lives right next door. And, they have a good relationship. But, again, this is a different situation than any other coaching change, during the season. This team has a winning record. They are 3-2. The Chiefs lost Sunday. The Raiders are right up there, right next to first place here in this division. And they got a divisional game coming up. We will see. Usually this means the end of a season for a football team. We will know when they play against Denver how they look. If the Raiders come out of that game with a victory, and they follow that up, like I said, that game against the Eagles is going to be very interesting to see, by the way. If they follow that up and this team is all of a sudden looking better on offense, it's going to be kind of weird here because all of a sudden we're going to say, hey, maybe this can work. So before I say the season is completely finished, because that's what usually happens when a coach leaves, I want to see how the players are going to respond. Now, as far as Jon Gruden being fired and, with the players and everything, Derek Carr is still going to love Jon Gruden. There's going to be most of those players are nothing in those emails are going to change how they feel about Jon Gruden. Because you got to remember, they see this guy all the time. They know him more than us. All we know is these emails. Now this guy is going to be judged his whole entire life, by the way, by emails he wrote 11 years ago. But if you played for the guy and you know the guy, you're probably going to look at this a little bit differently. I haven't heard many people who know Jon Gruden come out in the media and say, oh yeah, he's a racist, terrible person. And I also find it kind of funny, I'm not going to lie, that he used homophobic slurs in some of his emails. Meanwhile, the guy kept Carl Nassib on his team, who's openly gay. when the Raiders could have cut him, and they were thinking about cutting him way before he came out of the closet, but they didn't do it, and they kept him on a team, and Carl Nassib's actually playing pretty good this season. And Jon Gruden had no problem with that. Having the first openly gay player on his team, and him being part of the defense, the front four. So it's weird. It really is weird. Now, you could argue maybe, Jon Gruden's, what he wrote 11 years ago is not the way he feels right now. But it probably is. But he was talking to his friend in an email. If I went through every single one of your guys' emails or text messages 10 years ago, or even 3 years ago, 2 years ago, I guarantee you I could find something in one of those text messages, one of those emails, one of those DMs that would not make you look good. Everyone knows that. I mean, come on, let's not act stupid here. But you can't condone what Jon Gruden said, so it's kind of like you got to move on. The NFL forced Mark Davis's hand here, and what ended up happening was Jon Gruden said, nah. I'm not going to have you fire me. We're not going to go out like that. I'll just resign. So, Raider Nation, you should say thank you to Jon Gruden. Because this guy, he could have made Mark Davis fire him and then say, yeah, you got to pay me everything. He could have done that. And Mark Davis would have, been battling it in lawsuits and you name it. But you know what? Mark Davis, I think, likes Jon Gruden way too much. And Jon Gruden likes Mark Davis too much for that to happen. So instead, he says, you know what? You don't need to pay me the rest of the, what is it, like $30 million, $40 million on his contract? He still had a few years on his contract here. And, now Mark Davis does not have to pay that money. So that's pretty good for the Raiders right there. But, it does suck that, this happened to the Raiders. But, and on the other hand, listen, Jon Gruden's been with the Raiders now for 4 years. This team has yet to have a winning record. He's trying to rebuild. He did rebuild the team. It looked like they're on the upswing. The talent-wise, the defense definitely looked, at least a couple weeks ago, a lot better. Now, against Chicago, they look terrible. They can't stop the run. That's something they got to fix quickly, by the way. And their offensive line, we all know, is in shambles. They got to figure something out on this offensive line. Now, as of right now, Mike Mayock is still the general manager. I'm pretty sure this will probably be his last year as general manager. Jon Gruden, if Jon Gruden was still there, this would have been his last year as a general manager. It's going to be really interesting now that Jon Gruden's gone. I don't think people understand how much Jon Gruden was running this team. He was running everything. Everything this guy was running. And now you take him out. And now Mark Davis is going to have to trust guys like Mike Mayock. Mike Mayock is going to have to act like a real general manager. Like a real one. I know he's going to be hit with a lot of stuff here. He's got to make the right calls. The Raiders need to make a trade for some offensive linemen. I don't care what they have to do, but they need to do something about that offensive line. Because you're not going to win many games with an offensive line like that when you can't run the ball, you can't protect your quarterback. So they got to fix that issue. And, this defense needs to be fixed. Luckily, Gus Bradley's still there. I was kind of shocked that, I wasn't that shocked, but Gus Bradley, I thought, was probably going to get the head coaching job. But then, it only took about 5 minutes after Gruden resigned to find out that Richie Bisaccia is just going to move up as head coach. Now, that seems logical since he was the assistant head coach, but that's also just a title that Jon Gruden gave him. But the players, I can tell you guys this. Here's the good news if you're a Raiders fan. The players love Richie Bisaccia. They love this guy. And he pumps them all up. Like, players really, 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 really like him. So it's not going to be a bad thing. It's not like they're going to play their hearts out for this guy. I'm telling you that right now. And guys like Derek Carr, you know this is going to light a fire under him because he's going to want to play well not only for Richie Bisaccia, but for Jon Gruden. And I know that may sound crazy to some people, might get mad about it, but like I said, when you spend that much time with someone, I mean, they have a different relationship than what the media is going to put out there for for his emails. So Derek Carr is going to want to go out there and probably show the world that, no, Jon Gruden did a good job with me, and he's going to probably try to play as best he can under Richie Bisaccia. This is Derek Carr's team right now. Derek Carr is going to be running that offense. Wow, he's going to have a lot on his shoulders. But like I said, it could be a good thing because I think Derek Carr is going to be a lot more aggressive now with the play calling. I think Greg Olsen on offense, he'll still be calling the plays. He's going to be more aggressive. Derek Carr is going to have the freedom, the audible, a lot more than he ever did before. He's got to make the right decisions out there. And hopefully people around that building can really come in and help out, Derek Carr, the quarterback, Gus Bradley, and, Greg Olsen and Richie Bisaccia. People got to help them out in the front office. Mark Badane's not there anymore, but he really never made football decisions. So Mike Mayock's got to make some decisions. And Mark Davis is probably going to lean on some people that he trusts that makes the right decisions as well. I'm talking about bringing guys in, signing guys, things like that. It's not like there's a ton of free agents out there, but that offensive line does need a couple new players out there. And the defense needs to be fixed because they can't stop the run at all. That was terrible against the Bears. Now, like I said, I think if that game happened 3 weeks ago, the Raiders beat the Bears by 20 points. I think the Bears kind of got lucky that the Raiders were dealing with a lot of drama at that time. I mean, look at the score. It was 20-9. The Bears pretty much really didn't do much. If you really look what they did, all they did is run the football. And the Raiders' defense really couldn't stop the run. If the Raiders' defense stops the run in that game, and Brian Edwards doesn't drop passes, and Darren Waller doesn't drop passes, even Hunter Renfrow dropped a pass. If all those guys just do their job and the Raiders don't have any these dumb mental errors that keep happening every week, they destroy the Bears. They end up winning by 10 points or more. But they had a lot on their plate. Now, I think Jon Gruden should have just resigned last week, to be honest with you. The Raiders knew other stuff was going to come out. That's why I don't know. I think they were kind of hoping it would brush over and maybe, the NFL wouldn't leak everything. But they made it pretty clear that they wanted Mark Davis to fire Jon Gruden. And if they didn't, then every week a new thing would come out about Jon Gruden. Another email would come out. And then when he didn't get fired, NFL obviously gave the go-ahead. Go ahead, publish more emails. And of course, obviously, the New York Times one just did them in. Gruden had no choice at that point and just gave his resignation. And now here we are. A Raiders team that looked really good to start the season. They lost 2 in a row. They dropped 2 bad. But they're still 3-2. And they're right up there in the division. And they got the Denver Broncos next. They are traveling. I don't know how they're going to play this week. Like I said, it could be a disaster this week. This team is not going to have their heads straight. There's no way. They got to play a game on Sunday. Remember, today is already Tuesday. It's going to be very hard for this team just to say, okay, let's go out there and play. So the Broncos have a golden opportunity here to beat the Raiders, and the Raiders could fall to 3-3. Now, like I said, I'm going to be more interested in how the Raiders play the following week, honestly, because then they'll have a full week with Richie Bisaccia at the helm and everything like that. But we shall see. This game against the Broncos, the Raiders are a better team than the Broncos, even on paper. If they went out there and the offensive line can protect Derek Carr, I guarantee you Derek Carr could call the right plays, and they would be able to beat the Denver Broncos. If the defense can tackle anything, if they can tackle the running back in this game, I know they can get after Teddy Bridgewater, they can beat the Broncos even with all this drama. But it will be hard to do. It's going to be very difficult for this team just to simply start practicing like everything's normal when the guy who they're used to seeing screaming at them is gone. You know, I mean, the guy who's running the entire building is gone. Think about that. If you went to work today and your boss suddenly is just gone, you know it would be weird. It's going to be weird. It's not like you can just simply go to work and act like nothing's happening. So it's going to be a little bit awkward for this team. But I'm not ready to throw in the towel yet on the Raiders season. I want to see how they respond to this. Even if they don't beat Denver, which I hope they do. If they beat Denver, I'll tell you what. I mean, that means this team is not even close to being dead. If they can come out and they can beat Denver, and then they have the Eagles the following week who are not a great team, just maybe, this coaching change won't be so bad. And remember, Derek Carr's playing for a contract this season. So he's got to get it together. You know, he's the one, without a doubt, he is the one that's really affected by this the most. Him and Gruden had the closest relationship out of everyone because he's the quarterback, obviously. So that will be the most weird. He's going to feel the most out of this thing. But he's also probably going to want to win for Jon Gruden. So just maybe Derek Carr's more aggressive. Just maybe this offensive line. Maybe all these coaches can say, listen, John's not here anymore. We got to fix this thing. Tom Cable's got to figure out that offensive line. By the way, I'm not going to lie to you, I was hoping Tom Cable would get the job. Because then we would have 2 former coaches return to coach the Raiders. You know, I mean, that would be kind of cool. But either way, Tom Cable's going to have a lot to say on that offense. I know he's going to have a big voice going forward. So we will see what happens, guys. But Jon Gruden is out as the Raiders head coach. Who would have thought this is a big fall? I mean, wow. You get that big $100 million contract, and all of a sudden, this guy's career's basically over. He's never going to coach again in the NFL. It's going to be very hard for him to ever get a real job. Monday Night Football is not going to be calling him back. ESPN's not going to want to hire him. NFL Network's not going to want to hire him. At least not right now. They might wait like 5 years. And that's probably what all those networks are going to do, because you do want Jon Gruden on your TV screen, because Jon Gruden does equal ratings, because he's a madman. That's why no one should be shocked by emails of him saying anything about anyone. I mean, that's all a guy does is make fun of people. And if I can tell you that, I know that for a fact. And the players know that. I mean, come on. He has nicknames for every single player. But, you know, you can't condone his emails, obviously. You can't. But at the same time, they were emails. And it is kind of weird to go into someone's emails and post them for the world to see. But, you know, what are you going to do? Because on the other hand, you can say, well, you shouldn't have been talking like that anyways. So there's really no right answer here. The best thing that could have happened, and that's Jon Gruden resigning. Like I said, it saves the Raiders money, and Richie Bisaccia gets a chance to be a head coach. That's what Jon Gruden wanted. So yeah, Jon Gruden has a fall from grace here, but remember, I mean, he kind of left with everything kind of set up here. The guy he wanted to be a head coach is now a head coach. He's leaving a team in Derek Carr where Derek Carr got better every single year under Jon Gruden. Even though the wins never came, Derek Carr became a better quarterback under Jon Gruden. So let's hope that legacy at least keeps going for the Raiders, and Derek Carr plays at a higher level and just keeps playing better and better. And the Raiders somehow, some way, can move on from this. It's going to be hard. Like I said, this guy not only was he the head coach, he ran that entire organization. He was the real general manager. Mike Mayock is not a real general manager. Mike Mayock is a guy who has his scouts and they look at college tape and they come to the Raiders and they say, which guys do you like? But now he's going to have a lot more on his plate if he still remains there. I think he will be. But he's going to have a lot more on his plate. And we'll see what happens. Like I said, a lot of people are just saying, the Raiders season's over. I know it's going to affect the team, obviously. But I'm not ready to say that. I am actually excited to see how they respond to this. This week, I know, like I said, will be weird. But the week following, how they will respond. When they play the Chiefs, what kind of game plan will they have? Richie Bisaccia is going to have a chance to be a head coach. And, stranger things have happened. What if Richie Bisaccia leads this team to the playoffs? Does Mark Davis say, hey, well, maybe we should keep him? Probably not, because they're in Vegas. They're probably going to want to get a high-profile name coach. But if this guy's leading this team and the Raiders get to the playoffs, I would argue you probably should keep that guy. I mean, the Raiders made a mistake before, I believe, when they first fired Tom Cable the first time, when they went 8-8, and the guy still got fired and he got replaced by Hugh Jackson. I thought that was a mistake. 8-8, if you remember, that was big for the Raiders. And by the way, since Jon Gruden's been the head coach of the Raiders, 8-8's the best Jon Gruden got, and Tom Cable did it in 1 year. So, Raider fans would killed for 8-8 or not last season, the season before that. So we'll see how it all unfolds. But yes, Jon Gruden is out. Richie Bisaccia will be the head coach. Greg Olsen will be calling the offensive plays. And obviously Gus Bradley is going to be calling the defense. Tom Cable will pretty much be the assistant head coach and still helping out with the offensive line. He has a lot of work to do on the offensive line, so he probably should just stick to that. Richie Bisaccia will still coach special teams. And, he's going to have his hand in both pretty much. But the players like him. That's a really good thing. Jon Gruden pretty much handpicked him to replace him. And Mark Davis must find a way to move this franchise forward, because the last 2 weeks were ugly. And now with all of this noise, at least it's over now. People will still be talking about it. But if the Raiders can win, they can silence a lot of these media that hate the Raiders. And we know there's a lot of them out there. You got The Athletic. They can't stand the Raiders because they moved. There's so many, outlets that can't stand this team that are loving this. Loving this. Trust me on that. They are loving the drama that's happening right in front of our eyes. But it's over now. Sure, they're going to talk about it all week. But the Raiders can really, really quiet a lot of people by winning football games. So I hope the players understand that as well. You want to get, have these reporters not ask you questions about Jon Gruden in 4 weeks. Win football games. Because if you lose, every question's going to be, do you think you're losing because Jon Gruden's no longer here? Even though the Raiders weren't winning when Jon Gruden was there. But they're still going to get that question, and you know that, obviously. So we shall see. It's going to be a fun one to see, guys. And the Raiders have the Denver Broncos, an AFC West rival, coming up. Can the Raiders somehow, some way, it's going to be a tough one to go into Mile High with all this drama going on. And Derek Carr never really plays well in Mile High. But can he play well enough and beat a Denver Broncos team, which is an important game, by the way. Even though the Broncos, just like the Raiders, they dropped the last 2 games in a row. So one of these teams are going to be 0-3 in the last 3 games. Will it be the Vegas Raiders or will it be the Denver Broncos? It's hard to make a prediction on this one, guys. It's almost impossible with all this going on. We shall see. But that's it, guys. Breaking news, as you know. But let's see if this team can come together, and let's see if Richie Bisaccia can lead these guys to some wins here. Because, like I said, this season is not over. It's not like it's the middle of the season and the Raiders are 0-8. They're 3-2, and they're not doing too bad. They're right up there. They are right up there. They're right behind the Chargers for first place in this division. So this is not a season where you just throw away. You can't. You can't do that if you are the Las Vegas Raiders. Hopefully, these players understand that as well. All right, guys, I will see you later. My name is Stephen Michaels. This is the Raiders Daily.